Good evening, ballers. Welcome to the 58th episode of the Stepback. It's your host, Leon Tompkins. My main man, Jacob Moses, we gave him the night off. Our pinch hitter from Total Bases Podcast, Felipe Melecio.
How you doing, everybody? Good to be on the show. Thank you for having me, Leon, as always. I really appreciate it.
Oh, no problem. And valued guest member, James Pinos. How you doing, brother?
Good, Leon. How's it going, all you guys?
Good. You know, wearing the crown, that feels good. Brooklyn, a little 4-game losing streak, but your Knicks are hot. But so far we're pretty good here.
Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of injuries, which kind of sums up the fantasy season this year also.
Yeah, Leon and I were talking about that before you got on, that this has got to be one of the worst years of fantasy basketball in terms of injuries. COVID is involved. Players are just getting hurt left and right. Load management also played a role. It just seemed like, well, Leon would know, but I mean, his Brooklyn Nets are still, last I checked, they're still roaming or running, as if nothing has happened. But no, this has to be one of the worst years, one of the most frustrating years in fantasy basketball in my entire history. Is that the way you see it, James? Was this one of the worst years in fantasy basketball in all the years you've been playing?
Yeah, a lot of stuff factors in if you look at it. I mean, they had the delayed season last year. They went straight from that. Basically, it was a really short off season, so they didn't get real full training camps, for some of the guys. Even some of the rookie injuries, they didn't get summer league conditioning like they usually would. Went straight into the new season. You got the condensed schedule, so they went back to a lot of back-to-back games, which they had really kind of eliminated the year before.
Yeah.
Which seemed to help with, with some of those little nagging injuries, not having to go back-to-back so much. And they did all that, and everything's just kind of condensed and put together. And, hopefully next year, with a more regular schedule and hopefully less of the back-to-back, so, it won't be anywhere near as crazy, but,
Yeah, those are all very good points. I didn't even think about that, how last year wasn't as bad, even though it was in the middle of a pandemic. And there was no traveling. So,
right.
Yeah, I know that it's one of the biggest complaints about among NBA players is that the traveling really taxes their body and getting those red eyes back home, and it's just ridiculous. And then waking up for morning practice, especially if you're a fan of the Knicks, Tom Thibodeau, that's what he's going to do. Not that I'm bitter or anything, but so James, I've been meaning to ask. So last I checked, you're down in Florida, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're a Knicks fan?
Well, I'm originally from New York.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm sure the accent's still there. Everyone tells me that. Obviously you got that New York accent, and it never really goes away.
Right.
So always been a Knicks fan. Growing up, it was the heyday. Back in the '90s, the battles with the Bulls. Obviously, those games were intense. We used to have the whole family over, people screaming, yelling, cursing at the refs on the TV. The whole nine. Those to me, those great, defensive matchups, Heat, Bulls, Knicks, the Pistons there, it was just, every possession was, an intense battle.
I have to ask a follow-up question for you, James, and then let's see here. So you mentioned that it was must-see TV. You brought the whole family to watch the Knicks and Bulls, Knicks and Heat, Knicks and Pistons.
Mm-hmm.
I know that there's a Knicks revival going on. I just mentioned Coach Thibodeau, Tom Thibodeau, who's really he's doing what Tom Thibodeau does best, and that's kind of reignite a dying franchise. But do you have that feeling now, like the way you're describing in the '90s, where Knicks are facing Team X? I'm bringing the whole family over. We're gonna watch tonight or this weekend because it's a big matchup this weekend. Is there a similar feeling in today's game with you?
For us, yeah. I mean, you're starting to feel that old New York vibe. To me, it's Thibodeau brought that. I liked him, coming in because he was going to bring that old school New York attitude, which to me has been lacking for years. I was never a great fan of Fizdale. When they hired him, I just, they kept talking about he's a players coach, he's this, he's that, and I'm like, I mean, if he's a players coach, then why didn't nobody want to come play for him? I mean, that was the whole thing. That first offseason, it's like, okay, well, he's got all these supposed player connections and they love him, but I didn't see anyone running across the finish line, to come play for him. And people rag on Thibs, but his old players love him. The only player I've ever heard really complain about him is Cat. And Cat's a lazy defender. I love his offensive skill set, but even now with other coaches, you hear it. He doesn't move on defense.
You're talking about
he's a big dude, and he's not intimidating people coming to the basket.
You're talking about Carl Anthony Towns over there.
Yeah,
Carl Anthony Towns.
It's him and Jimmy Butler didn't get along for that reason, because he's when you play tough defense on the perimeter and you're forcing your guy into awkward shots, your big's supposed to come over and erase that thing.
Right.
And he's just not there. He's not hustling on those plays.
Listen here, James. Now, we you mentioned the Knicks battles in the '90s coming today. The Knicks Nets battles this year have been outstanding.
Oh yeah.
You have Thibodeau's Coach of the Year.
The only other person I see in my eyes at this point would be the Jazz coach. Because that came out. They're a great team, but if you look at them again, it's another defensive-based team.
Yeah.
A couple of stars and a whole bunch of role players. Guys just doing their role and playing hard defense. And they surprised everyone. I don't think anyone saw. You always kind of see them as a middle of the pack team. But Mitchell and Gobert both, stepped up, and you got guys like Ingles and a couple of Bogdanovic over there. Who doesn't get a lot of credit. Around league circles, but he's a pretty big piece over there.
Wow, Quinn Snyder for Coach of the Year. It seems like it was only yesterday when it was only a matter of time that he was going to get fired, and now look at him. He's, like you said, it's just been pretty surprising, and at this point you would have to consider it. But I don't know about you guys, but it sounds like it might be Tibbs getting it this year.
If you look at the expectations before the season, it's got to be Tibbs. The Knicks are supposed to be like bottom 3 lottery team, and they're the 4 seed.
Steve Nash.
Huh?
Oh,
Steve Nash.
Steve Nash.
Even with all of the talent he has, playing with 2 of the big 3, playing with the big 3, you play with 1. The Nets have went through more starting lineups than the rest of the NBA. You could argue Nash, you could argue Monty Williams, but when that championship come home to Brooklyn, it's going to be awesome.
He's already counting his chip before they hatches over there.
I know, Leon's all happy and everything, but I don't know,
I know.
Defensively.
Yeah, it does leave a lot to be desired.
Defensively, and to me, defensively, a lot of that's chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
The 3 guys have barely been on the court together. I would say one of them is a really good defender, and that's Durant.
Mm-hmm.
Harden. Harden is a mystery to me defensively, because I remember the first 2 or 3 years in OKC, he was a lockdown defender. And I don't know if D'Antoni infected him. It's like a virus or something. He went to Houston and forgot how to play defense.
Well, he didn't have to play defense.
I remember that series against the Heat, and he was on LeBron. Lots of times he was on LeBron, and he was slowing LeBron down. And, you hear, he's a great young defender, and then I don't know what happened. Just like he forgot about that part of his game.
Yeah, he's definitely selective when he wants to play defense, but he does have quick hands. I'll give him that.
Yes.
And when Kyrie's engaged, he's actually a pretty good defender. But like you say, they all have to be willing and committed to defense, which is what the Knicks have, #1 defensive rated team in the league. And I really like where they're going. All that rivalry and kidding aside, I like where this is going, the Knicks and Nets.
Yeah, I don't personally think Kyrie's an unwilling defender. I just personally think he has no lateral movement on defense. And, it's a different thing on offense and defense. People are like, oh, well, he's so great off the dribble. I said, yeah, but it's one thing when you know where you're going on offense.
Mm-hmm.
When you're playing defense and you've got to anticipate and get side to side, it's different, and your knees react in a different way. And he's had, so many knee surgeries. That you can see the difference if you look at his early days. He wasn't an outstanding defender, but he could stay in front of guys a lot easier.
Mm-hmm.
And now you see it, and a little move there, and you're gone. So it's not like he's a completely unwilling guy. I just think, physically, I don't think, I think he's lost that at this point.
I also think it's just years and years of ankle injuries, knee injuries, various leg injuries that have taken a toll on Kyrie, but he's still one of the best players in the league. Saying that begrudgingly, as you guys know, I really there's days where I really can't stand the guy just because of the foolishness he speaks of, and then there's other days where he totally redeems himself. But I don't know. I believe there might be something to him. Just years of injuries taking a toll on him.
Yeah.
But like you said, when he's engaged, he's a competitor. He's feisty when he wants to be.
I think he's a real clutch shooter. You've seen it time and again.
Yeah.
You just gotta keep him in there. That's all.
And one more question I want to ask you was, big Knick fan. I've asked Jacob before. He wanted to extend Randall. You've been big on RJ the entire season.
Mm-hmm.
Do you keep and extend Randall?
Right now, I think really they should wait. Randall has been very vocal about wanting to stay. That he doesn't see himself going anywhere at this point. That he loves the challenge and everything. But cap-wise, if you look at it, if they extend him now, it eats up a bunch of cap. Into next year. If they could extend him past next year, where it wouldn't affect next year's cap, I mean, it gives them more flexibility to make some off-season moves, which I think is kind of what they're trying to look at to see what's going to happen this off-season.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, you can't knock what he's done. I mean, I loved the Randall signing when he first came. He was a disappointment to me last year because, and you could see the skill. He was just so not mentally in the game. I mean, there was double teams coming, and he tried, Mr. Spin Move, as they called him last year.
Spin cycle. Oh,
and it killed me. And you see just the little differences now where, he makes that quick move in the post, or he quickly just, makes the pass out when he sees the double coming, and it's that little difference that's made such a big difference in his game. It wasn't like a major thing, it was just, you got to make quick decisions in the post when they're coming at you. And that's also finding trust in your teammates, which we know is a big thing with guys when they're evolving. You got to trust your guys to make that, to make those shots.
Absolutely. And Randall was one player on Felipe's team who made I forgot where you drafted him, but he paid dividends.
Yeah, I got him right before I was going to take him, actually.
Yeah. I mean, with a room full of Knicks fans, you have to be I'm pretty sure I was pretty aggressive in the draft there.
Mm-hmm.
But it was close. It was either him or a guard. I can't remember who that guard was. But ultimately, I made the right choice. I had a feeling that him and Thibodeau were going to click very well. Just Thibodeau, as much as credit as he gets for his defensive wizardry, he's a pretty damn good pragmatic offensive guy. One of the reputations he got here in Chicago when he was with the Bulls was if this were like football and he can draw up plays offensively every single possession, he'd be nonstop because he's pretty creative. He knows what he has. He knows how to utilize players and put them in good positions. I mean, for God's sake, he got Joakim Noah people to believe that he was an MVP candidate at one point here in Chicago. And that was back when the Bulls were one of the worst offensive teams, but they made it work. I mean, this solid defensively and offensively creative and giving with what you got. I mean, he's a hell of a basketball mind, but the thing I always say to all the Knicks fans is he burns out very quickly, and he does it to himself every single time, every single step he's been in. So I don't know. I'm hoping for his sake that this time in New York, it is going to be different. He has a very young player that actually – another player, right, Leon? I think you guys mentioned it before. Another player that owes a debt of gratitude to him. And Julius Randle, you guys mentioned it. Maybe R.J. Barrett too. So it's a really nice thing you guys got going finally up in New York. And Henry –
one of those things with coaching to me is if your superstar buys into you, that means everyone else has to. Because if you're a guy, I always used to say that with the Bulls. Jordan believed in Phil Jackson. And when you hear the stories, Jordan was all out in practice. You know, he would personally go out in practices, and you know, he did the Jimmy Butler thing sometimes. I'd heard it said several times where he'd be like, you know, I'm going to play with the bench guys, and he would run up the starters.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you know, and you see that from Randall when you talk to the young guy, when you hear the young guys, RJ, Quickly, they're all like, they all talk to him and talk about him like, you know, he's the leader, he's the guy. You know, he's helped me do this, he's helped me do that. You know, they follow him. You know, Randall gets to a city now and he does the Kobe thing. He goes to shoot and they go with him.
Yeah.
You know, it's a buy-in type of thing. You know, when you have that to me is always a key with coaching. You know, if your main guy buys in, the other guys can't be lazy because, you know, then you're just not going to play.
Yeah, and the thing about Randall is I think he's only 25 years old as well. So
Right.
it's just a perfect situation that Thibodeau got himself into, going back to his old team, and I don't know. Just hopefully it does work out in the long run. But we've seen this story before in Chicago and Minnesota. You can say what you want, that it's partially the players' fault or just the organization was not fully intact. But new beginning in New York. I'm honestly happy for the guy, especially, you know, since I drafted Julius Randle and got all the way to the championship game. And we keep bringing up fantasy basketball because James is here to talk about his fantasy basketball team, which was a team called House of Giannis. I was talking to Leon before the show started, and we kind of reminded ourselves that, you know, back when we did the preview to this basketball league, we looked at your team, James, and we were like, wow, that is a really damn good team. That's going to be a threat. And it didn't come to fruition. And Leon, may I share my screen? Is that okay with you? I have his roster up on the – awesome. And I'm going to share the roster, the final roster that James had here. And I guess the first question, James, is what went wrong? It's such, like I said, high hopes to start the season, and you ended up being in the losers bracket, so to speak, to get – to compete for the first pick overall next year.
One of the main things that hurt me was Nurkic. You know, he's you know, when healthy, he's basically your double machine every night.
Yeah,
I'll tell you where else. DeAndre Jordan. That was.
Well, DeAndre Jordan wasn't on my original roster.
Okay.
I lost Nurkic. I had to like rotate in bigs all year, finding, you know, some sort of a body. You know, to try and get me some sort of numbers. Rebounding, you know, rebounding category killed me. You know, all year, it just wasn't there. You know, you depend on those big men to also give you high percentages, you know, field goal wise, because, you know, they're getting mostly dunks and layups and stuff. And, you know, Giannis was, you know, in and out of the lineup lots of times. You know, during weeks, and that cost me, you know, during the weeks, averages wise, you know, it was first time I played actually in an average league, which is a little bit different.
May I ask Leon if I wanted to ask that, since he brought it up. I mean, with COVID and you just mentioned Giannis going in and out, did you feel like that actually helped you more, or were you frustrated not to see him out there on the court, despite the fact that, you know, if he has one really, really good game, you're pretty much set for the rest of the week, James? What did you think about the weekly?
Well, it's, you know, again, on a lucky week, he plays one game, scores 50 points, gets 20 rebounds. But that didn't seem to be the way that it worked out for me, unfortunately. on the weeks when he would blow up and have like a huge game, then he'd have another game that was average and bring it back down. And then, you know, on the weeks where he would get hurt, he'd like leave the game at halftime, and then you'd be stuck with that average of like 10 points and 8 rebounds, you know. So, you know, and that happened during several weeks where it just kind of, you know, didn't work out that way.
Well, he averaged 53.32 points, fantasy points per game with our scoring format. Easily the highest guy on your team. Steph Curry up there with 47.87. It's still early in the offseason, but is it safe to say that those two guys, Giannis and Steph, are going to be your keepers for next year as we go to 2 keepers for next year?
Yeah, most likely that's, you know, that's the deal at this point. I mean, you know, Steph was one of those players where he did not have a great start to the year. So, you know, I lost games early in the year because his production was down, his percentages were down. And, if you look at the last month or so, I started winning games.
Yeah.
Steph came on. Obviously, Giannis came back healthy. Nurkic came back towards the end of the year. When I had my actual lineup that I kind of envisioned, started winning games. But unfortunately, at that point, I was out of the playoff race because it just didn't, just couldn't muster the points. The assist category kind of hurt me this year as well. It just didn't work out. For as far as certain players.
Yeah.
Also, my other big was also hurt a lot too. Was Turner. He was in and out a lot during the year. He's the block shot monster.
Yeah. It also looks like you really did suffer a lot from injuries and a lot of poor play. Tyler Hero he had a hot start and then just completely fell off the rails.
But Tyler Hero is a much better player than R.J. Barrett. I've heard that somewhere. I don't know where I've heard that several places.
I mean,
if anybody out there is wondering why Tyler Hero is not playing well this year, spend a week in Miami at any club, and you know where Tyler Hero is?
Is he at the club?
Boy, don't go home, according to people that I know down in Miami.
Hell yeah.
Mm-hmm. He is in full celebrity mode down there.
I mostly blame it on that rapper. What's the dude's name? I forgot. I want to call him Jack Sparrow, but that's not his name.
Jack Harlow.
Thank you, Jack. I was way off. I just saw him on SNL the last week. I'm catching up on SNL. There he was, and I completely blanked on his name. But yeah, I just assume it was all him. But I guess it's a Tyler Hero problem, not just a influencer problem there.
And I know so many people at the beginning of the year down here in Florida, and a lot of Heat fans around me, of course, most of them aren't even from Florida, but, they came down here, and a lot of traders that gave up on my Knicks. People not loyal like that, and they were so adamant, Leon, and, I know you're happy with this, but that they refused to trade Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson for James goddamn Harden. Okay?
Yeah.
Oops.
I was laughing so hard when they turned down that trade. These guys down here. I was like, you can have Harden, Butler, to play along with your young, promising big, and you wanted to keep Harrell and Robinson.
And they get stuck with Oladipo, who's played like 3 games.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was. Believe me, you heard me every week, Leon, when they're like, "Oh, the Knicks are gonna get Oladipo." I'm like, "No, they're not."
Yeah.
I was like, Thibodeau wants no part of that non-defending, 30% shooting dude, bro.
No. Oladipo is an elite defender. He just can't stay on the floor.
He was an elite defender.
He still has his flashes.
Again, that injury, and you can see the difference. Maybe it might change next year after he's fully recovered from it. Because sometimes that first year back on those injuries.
Yeah.
But I didn't want no part of him, and especially not knowing. You were going to give up assets for somebody who you had no idea was going to resign.
Oh yeah, Oladipo was the worst kept secret of wanting to go to Miami. So.
You heard Woj and Marks and Shams all say every report he wants to go to Miami in the offseason.
Well, I was going to ask you, James. You mentioned that the Heat refused to trade Tyler Hero, and it just sounds like it's one of those cases where an organization falls in love, too much in love with their own players, and they can't see. They can objectively evaluate correctly because of those feelings that they got for this player. Switching it back to fantasy here, is there a player on your team that you felt the same way looking back at this season that you're like, man, if this guy, I don't want to trade him, I don't want to drop him just yet. He's hurting me right now, but if he turns it around, he's going to pay off dividends. And is there a player just like that for you on this team there, James?
Early on, it was Bridges. He didn't get off to a great start. But I've always liked Bridges. Mm-hmm. He was one of my favorites in that draft. I obviously, in hindsight, I wish they had picked him instead of Knox. Although to me, Knox has been a tragedy this year to me because every time he comes in, he's been knocking down shots. Defensively, he's looked a lot better. He's blocking shots using his length, the way he hasn't been the last few years. And he just hasn't, he's not gotten any run real, consistently at least. For young players, to me, you need consistent minutes. Because if you make that one mistake and get pulled, that just doesn't work to me. And that's why to me it's always like when you drive somebody, a lot of it has to do with the situation. If you're willing to play a guy and yeah, you might suffer a bit at first, but you gotta let him get through his mistakes. To a certain point. If the player is not exuding effort, that's different. But to me, if the player's out there playing hard, he's gonna make stupid mistakes. Obviously, the kid's freaking 19, 20 years old, and he's playing with some grown-ass men a lot of the times.
Yeah.
But I mean, look at the difference. You look year 1 to year 2. RJ, you saw flashes of it last year. Obviously, very dedicated player, put in a lot of work in the offseason on his shot. And you can see the difference. I mean, it's funny because if you eliminate like the first, I think it was 6 or 8 games of the year, shooting wise, he'd be shooting 52% from 2 and like 46% from 3. But he got up to that like 3 for 34 start or something like that from 3. And it's just, sometimes it's about confidence in your new mechanics and, falling back into the habits of your old ones. And that's what it seemed like at first. And then when and it just started building. And you see the difference between the two players, because he sticks with RJ through his problems. And maybe it's because he saw something in him or whatever it is, but he didn't have a lot of better options at that point. Burks has been good, but Burks is very streaky. You have games where Burks is on. Same thing with Bullock. There's games where Bullock, although since the All-Star break, Bullock's been unconscious. And it's probably the reason that I keep winning the 3-point category in several of my leagues that I have him in. Because he's just been ridiculous since the All-Star break.
All right. Well, that was your team, James. First and foremost, I hope you like the color scheme I selected for you. I looked at your logo and I saw that you had this. I guess you had this color scheme, so I just went with it, even though you're a Knicks fan. But guess what? There's like 20 Knicks fans in this league here, so they all can't be blue and orange. So I went with whatever logo you have there for your team. So we have 11 other teams to go with, James. It's up to you if you want to stay with us and talk about the other teams, or if you want to call it a night for yourself. Can you stay with us, or do you need to get going?
Yeah, I can go.
All right, well, let's quickly move on to the next team, which is Why Try. That's Aaron's friend up in Canada, who was a kind of a later addition. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention James Pinos because somebody mentioned so far that he went on a winning streak at the end of the season, and that helped him earn. You got to earn it. No tanking here. You got to earn this first-round pick. He gets the first pick overall next year. I guess my final question to you, James, before we move on, have you looked at other people's rosters in terms like, because I have the first pick overall, I can't wait to get this guy because he's going to fall to me in the first pick. Any prospects as to who you want to get next year?
No. I actually haven't even, because you never know what people are going to do. I mean, obviously, you figure most of the big names will be on rosters. If I'm going to be like Leon, I just take the first available Nick, as opposed to the first available net.
Well, that's good for me because if you guys go full homer, that just means I'm going to win, right? Again. Well, not again, but you know what I mean. Let's move on to Niles' team. This is Aaron's team, and so we got 2 Canadians up in here. He kind of was hit or miss. There were some weeks where like, wow, this guy's dangerous. His team is at least, and there's other weeks where like he just not show up. I mean, he gets the second pick overall, but I don't know. Leon, looking at his roster, what's one thing that kind of sticks out to you at the moment?
After Zion and Van Fleet, Murray struggled early. Brogdon was very good, but as usual, his injury history caught up with him. Colin Sexton was much better this year than I anticipated. But you get to Paul Millsap, Serge Ibaka, and that's what your downfall is. Once you're depending on Bobby Portis, good night.
Josh Richardson really did not have a good year, really.
Yeah, he's been kind of disappointing the last couple of seasons. He had that really good stretch with the Miami Heat a year or two ago, and then he just kind of fell off the face of the earth, unfortunately. And I'm pretty sure he was counting on him to kind of be like a sleeper kind of
Mm-hmm.
pick, and it didn't happen. I mean, when you got a team like with Kawhi and like you mentioned, Fred VanVleet playing out of his mind, you think you would have more success. Zion's also on that team, but yeah, as Leon mentioned, there seems to be a little bit of lack of depth missing here. So I wish he would have come on because I have a lot of questions for him. Unfortunately, he's not here to answer for himself. But yeah, I know that he reached for James Wiseman in the draft. We were kind of like, I think Leon, if you remember correctly, I think we kind of scratched our head a little bit. But then after talking about it, it made sense, to draft them because it is a keeper league. James, looking at his team, who do you suspect that he will be keeping for next season? He gets 2 players.
Well, I think Kawhi is kind of Kawhi and Zion, I guess.
Yeah, right.
If you're looking at it, I mean, Zion's been a beast, even though again, he's out for the end of the season again. Trend pattern, I don't know. He's probably going to put on 50 pounds in the next 2 weeks, Whataburger or something.
Leon, do you think that's a pattern with Zion then? Is he going to be a health risk or you think it's fluky?
No, his last injury was his ring finger.
Fracture pinky, yeah.
So I think his weight is now situated. I think he's in a place now where he could just dominate the league. I think he's in a much better place conditioning wise than what he was last year.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, his conditioning's better. He's not burning out in the fourth quarter like last year. At the end of games, he just had no gas. There was no gas. I mean, sometimes as soon as the second half started, he was done. My main concern again, long term, is his weight. How his frame is going to hold up. Tremendously talented guy. If he ever develops a consistent 3-point shot or even deep range, twos, I don't know how you guard that. If you got to come up on him and not be able to back up and try and draw charges, he's such a load.
Yeah, he's definitely living up to that hype, that first round potential. Leon, same question to you. Do you see it the same way James sees it in terms of keepers, Kawhi and Zion, or do you see something else?
Yeah, I mean, it's too obvious. I mean, you could also go with Jamal Murray, but it's such a risk after a torn ACL. So Murray is a guy maybe next year that people will look at as a sleeper in a draft. But yeah, I agree. Zion and Kawhi play here.
Yeah, I mean, Murray's intriguing, but because of the injury, you could probably get him back if you really wanted him. You take more of a chance than where Zion and Kawhi are going to go early if you leave either one of them out there.
Oh, yeah. He might go to you, James.
If he's willing to throw Zion out there, I'm more than willing to pick him up, I mean, at some point, he's going to look really good in that orange and blue, Let's start some
numbers, boy, here we go again. All right. Knicks fans, disillusion over there. Leon, I have another question for you. For next year, Colin Sexton or Jamal Murray?
Colin Sexton.
There you go, my man. Yeah, I'm thinking the same thing as well on my end. James, what about you? James, go ahead. I'm sorry.
In
terms of fantasy, Colin Sexton or Jamal Murray.
I mean, since they're not going to make him pass the ball, I mean, there's no reason not to take Sexton.
Moving on to pick number 3, Brandon Obando's team, who was going to join us tonight, and then he sends us a picture from the hospital. I hope he's doing okay. He didn't specify anything, so my thoughts go out to him. I hope he's doing okay. I mean, you look at his guards, you look at some of the players that he has. He had Anthony Edwards, and and I gave him Anthony Edwards basically because it was between him or Obi Toppin, and I figured, well, I don't know because D'Angelo Russell is with the Timberwolves, and they're gonna have to feed Cat, and Ricky Rubio is gonna need the ball, so I figured Obi can get some steals and blocks and rebounds and chip in for 10 points under Thibodeau. I figured that was a safer bet. Wrong. Leon, if I had Anthony Edwards, I would have beat your ass in the championship game there. I said it, but
I mean, if you played Tobias Harris, you would have probably won, but no, that's neither here nor there.
Well, we'll get to that, but Tobias Harris underperformed. Those injuries to Tobias Harris really did a number on him. But we'll talk about it when we get to my team. But let's start with you, Leon. There's 2 keepers that you need to get for next year. If you're Brandon, who do you go with from this list?
Wow.
Edwards and Booker.
Yeah. James, do you see it the same way, or do you see it differently?
Yeah, I mean, the third person you always got to consider here would be Paul, but yeah, it's got to be Edwards and Booker. I mean, if you're looking at long term,
Yeah.
Edwards and Booker, Paul is who Paul is. He's always gonna have some nice numbers for you.
Yeah, I mean this is a decent team, I guess. I mean, with Jarrett Allen and Anthony Davis, that is a hell of a combination at center. This is a 2-center league for those who don't know. So I'm just surprised that more wasn't done. I know that John Wall was hurt for a lot of the year, but it seems like
that's right. He's got Anthony Davis.
Yeah,
Wow.
it seemed like a lot of missed opportunities for this poor guy.
No, Marcus Hall was awful. JaVale McGee, the center was the downfall of his team.
Well, I mean, early on, Jared Allen wasn't doing a lot in Cleveland, and then when they starting him, then Anthony Edwards got off to a tremendously slow start. LeVert was hurt. If you're looking at his roster, Anthony Davis has been hurt most of the year. Lou Williams did nothing until he got to Atlanta. He was kind of a void in the Clippers this year. So, I mean, the team doesn't look horrible. It just didn't work. Just clearly didn't work out this year.
Well, we all know why Lou Williams wanted out of L.A. and go back to Atlanta. We all know why.
Magic City, baby.
Magic City, that's right. We move on to my guy from Eastern Washington, who has all of a sudden taken first place in our baseball league. Leon, after we kind of were singing a little bit of his praises, and this is the complete opposite. He was the worst team to finish the regular season, and he just did not show up in these in this 14 playoff with James, who's involved. He ends up with the number 4 pick overall. If anybody needed that number 1 pick, it probably would have been him. But right off the bat, you see that his centers are solid with Domantas Sabonis and Karl Anthony Towns. That looks to be like the 2 keepers. Leon, is that the way you see it, or do you think he'll go somewhere else?
I think so. Porter's an interesting one.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's a wild card right there. I'm pretty sure if this was a 3-keeper team, that would be the way he would go, especially since he left Cleveland. Yeah. It seems like it's been a different story once he got to Houston. He suddenly isn't getting arrested, or he's still getting into fights, but he's trying to defend his teammates, obviously. But James, anybody else that kind of you see here and you're like, I wish he was on my team?
Well, I'm a big Drew Holiday guy, honestly. Yeah. It seems like it took him a while to get acclimated this year.
Yeah.
But on both ends of the floor, he makes a difference stat-wise. You get lots of steals, generally when he's on his defensive game, a couple weeks ago, I mean, he just locked down Kyrie, and that is not an easy task. When they were talking about trading him during the offseason, honestly, I don't know if I mentioned it with you guys. I know I talked to Jacob. I still wanted the Knicks to make a move for Drew Holiday. Pairing Holiday and Barrett to me would have been, and with the way that Randall ended up playing, that to me would have been a great move. I was kind of hoping, since he didn't seem to be acclimating well, that he was going to use his opt-out, but they extended him. He ended up taking that extension with him.
And I see that Mike has both Holiday brothers. I'm sorry, Leon, you were going to say something over there?
Yeah, I was going to echo the same sentiment about Holiday and his defensive skills. Those 2 games against Brooklyn, they shut down Kyrie and KD, known fourth-quarter closers, and to win 2 games to move up to a second. But I always thought Holiday was that third piece that Milwaukee was missing. Because they had Bledsoe and I forgot who was there before, but
Hamilton.
Right. No. The point guard before Bledsoe.
Shoot.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I was gonna say Luke Rittenauer, but no, I'm just aging myself at this point.
But Holiday was the perfect fit for these two guys as a offensive, the two-way player, and between them and Philly, you could see why they would give Brooklyn problems. Uh, like James, I'm a big Drew Holiday fan.
And imagine had Milwaukee actually not illegally traded for Bogdan Bogdan.
Mm.
I was
Oops.
trying to, it's funny because when that first deal was announced, I'm like, how did they do that? I'm like, he was a, and then it came out that it was done illegally. I'm like, oh yeah, well that makes sense because you're not supposed, the player's not supposed to have any contact, so how could they do a sign-in trade before the moratorium?
Leon, before I go, any last words on Mike Harvey's team before I move on to Aaron's team here?
Kemba Walker was a huge disappointment.
Yeah.
Lou Dort, I think, is going to have a real breakout season next year. Be on the lookout for him. And City Osman, he came on strong early in the year, then kind of faded off. He's heating up lately. His name is another one to be on the lookout for as well.
Good stuff. And then LaMarcus Aldridge, unfortunately, finally retired when it looked like he had maybe a couple seasons left as a reserve in the NBA.
And look, he lost T.J. Warren there. That was someone he was definitely going to count on.
Yeah. No, I mean that's
after that bubble performance last year.
Yep. But that's the downfall with some of these. See, we made fun of Mike on Sunday, Leon, because he's a St. Louis Cardinals fan, and his team is just littered with a lot of Cardinals players. But that is a downfall to a lot of fantasy teams. Is like when you're trying to depend so much on your favorite players from your favorite team. Well, we just mentioned it, right? With Tyler Hero, when you're attached like that, it's really hard to think objectively. Speaking of homer picks, Aaron, who's a big Toronto Raptors fan, has a bunch. There's Kyle Lowry, OG Anunoby. I thought there was more, but I guess that's it.
Got Powell.
No, thank you, Norman Powell, who eventually made his way to Portland, it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess we'll start with you, James. Who are the obvious choices here for keepers for her?
Wow, from here? Well, obviously Embiid.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not giving up the best big in the league at this point.
Nope.
Well, it's an interesting roster. What Aaron will do? I mean, is it Butler? This is kind of a weird roster to me.
Yeah, she'll admit that basketball is not her forte, so to speak. I mean, she's a back-to-back champion in our baseball league.
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess that didn't transfer over to basketball, according to her. I mean, she has some nice players, but they have very limited upside. I mean, there's also SGA, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander from the OKC Thunder.
Right. That's right. I didn't even see it. Yeah.
Yeah, who averaged 40 fantasy points this year. But is he keeper material? Can the Thunder keep continuing to depend on him? And by quick, really interesting story here. So, as you guys know, I was in the back end of the draft, so I had already picked Luka Doncic as my keeper. I forgot who. Oh, okay, so it's my turn to pick, and I'm really thinking about getting Jimmy Butler, and I'm this close to getting Jimmy. At the last second, I switched out and got Donovan Mitchell. Was that the right thing to do? I don't know, but I was happy with it. Jimmy Butler, it seemed like it took him forever to get started because he was hurt, and I mentioned about Thibodeau, man. Jimmy Butler is a Thibodeau disciple. That means he has a lot of mileage under his legs. Leon, do you see it the same way I see it? A little concerned about Jimmy there?
If it were me, I wouldn't keep Jimmy. Okay. I think he's going to have he's going to suffer from the same thing like Kawhi does. Going to be a lot of load management days. You think knowing him, he'll try to tough it out, but it's not for his benefit. Butler isn't a player I'd keep. I'm kind of torn between Holmes and SGA.
Oh, wow.
If it was me, I'd probably keep Shea.
Okay.
I love his upside. His game is wonderful. Having Embiid on the team makes me keep Shea rather than Holmes. Because you've got that one solid starter at center who's going to give you numbers.
Yep.
Holmes is someone who, I love Holmes, honestly. Great player to me, definitely upside. But you could probably get him back. I mean,
Yeah.
if you really want him back.
Man, the thing I don't like about Holmes is that he's on the wrong team, bro. I mean, Sacramento has like 20 big men on that roster, and
Well, not for long.
well, yeah, not for long, but I mean, it's a deterrent for me, right? I mean, they got Hassan Whiteside over there, I think, last I checked, and all these like failed rookie prospects from years ago, and it's
Well, Holmes has clearly, to me, stood out. He's been getting more of the playing time than that. I mean, he's averaging almost 30 a game at this point. Whiteside's, yeah. I mean, Whiteside.
it's just always lurking. That's my problem. Like, he has one bad game, and then what's his face? Is it still Walton's kid, Bill Walton's kid? Is it Luke Walton still coaching?
Yeah, surprisingly.
I mean, shoot, he benches Buddy Hield for no reason, and I know this because Buddy Hield's on my team, and like Buddy Hield would like put up 40 fantasy points, and the next game he put like 20. I'm like, come on, man.
Hield is such a good shooter,
Mm-hmm.
and defensively he just doesn't exist. It's like, again, to me, where again, there's no even effort.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's a turnstile, so if you score 40, you give up 50. It's one of those where how's that working for you? I mean, people knocked Halliburton coming in, to the draft, and I just kept saying, I was like, you know what? I mean, he can put on some weight, some strength, like a lot of guys once they get into conditioning NBA programs.
Yeah.
I was like, but he's got skills. He's got all-around skills. He defends well. You can see he started getting more and more minutes.
So quickly moving on to Jacob Moses. I wish he was here to explain himself a little bit, because but he's, maybe he's not really, taking the night off. He's just ducking us, Leon.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Gun smoke.
There you go.
He lives in spirit right here on the show. It's his show. I'm just subbing in. But as you see, James, I gave because it's Jacob's show, I gave him the Knicks colors. So I hope you don't mind. But I'll start with you, James, since you got the Knicks colors up and running here. James Harden has to be one of them, right? I mean, we've seen that he can put big numbers, being a part of the big three. Is that the way you see it before I color this?
Yeah, I think you have to go with Harden. I mean, and again, as far as what the numbers are going to look like, we have no idea, in all honesty, because until the three of them are on the court consistently for like a 40-game stretch, you really don't know how that's going to work. I mean, Harden's a willing passer at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But and to me, I think Harden's in a great situation for himself. Not even fantasy-wise.
Yep.
But even professional-wise, because if there's one thing that Harden has not been, is a clutch postseason performer at all.
Ooh.
And with the ability that he'll have to penetrate and be able to kick to Durant or Irving, may help his chokiness.
Leon, I gotta ask you, just what he mentioned, right? You're a Nets fan. Is that are you concerned that for James Harden's sake, that if the big three ever step foot on the court together for a long period of stretch, that a guy like James Harden's production will suffer, or do you see him flourishing in that role?
If anything, I think it'll make him better. When was the last time he's played with this much talent?
Probably in Oklahoma City, maybe.
Right, yeah. and that was his, I guess, premature years. We'll call them. I think if this, and I said this before, if it was the OKC team way back in the day, they wouldn't have a chance. But the experience that these guys had now in the league, but the fact that Kyrie was even able to quickly transfer the point guard position over to him shows you the sacrifice and willingness they have to for the embetterment of the team. So I don't think Harden's number will suffer at all.
You think he'll get? I'm sorry. Really quickly, let me ask him. You think he'll get 54, almost 55 fantasy points per game next year, there, Leon, in this format?
I mean, he was getting 15 assists without Durant.
Mm-hmm.
Why not get 15 assists with him?
Good point. Yeah. And James, you were going to say what now?
Like I said, his assists will probably go up. In a perfect situation, when you're able to kick to Kyrie, you're able to kick to KD. And of
DeAndre
course,
Jordan.
and let's not forget Joe Harris. Who's one of the best 3-point shooters in the league.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of, you're still talking about three big egos, and people talk about like the big teams coming together. I mean, in Miami, remember, Bosh took a major step back to make that work.
He appeared on the podcast here.
Focus solely on his defense and his rebounding. Someone's gonna have to, be willing to say, I'm not gonna drop 30 every night.
Well, I'm looking at Jacob's team right here, and it seems like there's a lot of familiar names, a lot of what you would call household names, familiar faces. And I look at their production on the right side here. It just seems like they kind of fell flat this year. Like John Morant, 37 fantasy points in this league. That's pretty damn good. But if he's gonna elevate Jacob's team, he needs to go up there in the 40s, like we saw some of these other guards post up like 40, 45. Jimmy Butler at the age of 30? Well, he looks like he's 39 years old because of Thibodeau, right? But but he's averaging out like well over 40 points of fantasy points per game in our format. It just seems like there's a lot of guys who underachieved this year, and that might have been his downfall. So with that in the mindset there, Leon, who do you think is the second guy that Jacob has to go with in this roster?
Oh, without a question, John Morant.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. Oh, self-proclaimed top 5.
Not according to the numbers. No, the 37 fantasy points guy at guard, those can be found anywhere in the draft. James, am I being too harsh on John Morant? Do you see him get to that 40 points next year, or what's holding John Morant from getting there right now?
Consistent outside shooting, really. I mean, he
Yeah.
can get to the basket. He's a more than willing passer. Defensively, I mean, for a point guard, that steal number's got to come up. He's got to learn to play the passing lanes as a point guard.
Yeah.
Turnovers is, it's not a, 7 to 3 is not, horrible thing there, but the outside numbers have to come up. On nights when he's hitting his outside shot, you can't guard him. On the nights when he's hitting out there, you got to come up on him. He's gone. But when teams notice early that he's not hitting, people start backing off. He's pretty streaky on his outside shooting right now.
Yeah. Leon, who's the best drafted player from that class? John Morant or Zion Williamson?
You just want me to yell at you,
right? I'm going to plead the fifth.
I'm going to plead the fifth? Well, I'll tell you guys what. I got the reaction that I wanted. That's all I wanted. It was just that reaction.
I mean, the best player is Zion Williamson at this point.
Uh-huh.
I mean, no one's going to argue that.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, if Zion gets a jump shot, terrifying.
All right, we move on to my guy, my fellow Bulls fan, Jacob Trent. I was more than willing to give him the Bulls colors. For those, there's been a lot of people asking, Felipe, let me in on this league. Hey, there's only 12 spots, all right? I can't fit everybody in this league. But guess what? Jacob has said that he wants to be out for next year. So we do, for those listening and for those who are interested, we do have an open spot for you if you want it. So go ahead and continue to submit your interest in joining our league. James, I don't know if you're aware of, but I have about 10, 12 people who are knocking on my door asking to be in this league. It's to the point where I'm thinking maybe I should start a second league just so I can get these people off my back. But, well, you've kind of been there since the beginning, where this basketball league was a pain in the ass to get to launch.
Yeah,
we couldn't find 12 people, and 3, 4, 5 years later, we now have too many people wanting to be on this in this league. So it's a wonderful problem to have at this point. But looking at Jacob Trent's team there, James, what do you like for next year?
Looking at this team here, whoever inherits this team, if Jacob's out, should have to pay some sort of a fee.
Yeah.
because just look at the three injured dudes.
Yep.
You got LeBron James and Klay Thompson sitting out there, injured right now. You've got guys like Tatum on the team.
Mm-hmm.
There's you got Levine. This
Yeah.
this is a stacked team that as far as talent wise goes. If you're coming into this team, you're pretty lucky. I think having options as to who you want to keep.
So Jacob's team was a threat early on in the season. I mean, is it just something as simple as the injuries just taking over completely the squad here, and that was his downfall, or is there something else that we're missing here? I'm going to give Leon a chance to get back as I see that he's back. James, what do you think happened wrong here with Jacob's team here?
Lots of it's the injuries. Again, and maybe some people aren't used to this format. This is the first time I've played weekly in fantasy basketball.
Yeah.
So weekly to me, you're much more affected by injuries.
Yep.
Because you can't churn the bottom of the roster, and it helps you really. To me, you're more liable to stay with somebody because okay, if they're going to be out this week, they're out this week. But they might miss 2 or 3 games this week, but you put somebody else in if it's early in the week. But you don't have to churn the roster. Whereas in other leagues, when it's daily, you can be like, okay, he's going to be out this game. You might pick somebody up who's starting in his place, or just somebody else who's doing well at that point, and kind of churn the bottom of your roster around. With so many injuries this year, I think it just affected a lot of people's teams.
Well, I feel like Jacob was affected the most. And just look at like you mentioned it, James. There's a lot of talent on this team, and it just didn't come to fruition. Leon. Is LeBron James still a keeper at his age, and knowing what we know about the injuries that he's suffered so far this season? Is he someone you got to keep for next year?
LeBron on any other team, yes. LeBron on this team, no.
Ooh. So who are you keeping on this team?
See, free agency is weird because if Levine stays in Chicago, he's one, and Tatum is another. I'm also debating Gobert.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah.
Boy, oh boy, Jacob, man. Tough luck, man. I mean, look at these centers here. Although Steve Adams, his production went down. Call that the Zion Williamson effect there in New Orleans. So that's
the old slow white guy effect.
Well, I mean, when he was in OKC and he was the main center, he was very productive in this format as well. So, I have nothing but good things to say about Steven Adams. But yeah, you put him next to Zion Williamson, he can't keep up with him. So, are we going with Tatum and Zach LaVine and just kicking LeBron to the curb there, Leon? Or
I would, yes.
Wow, James, would you do the same thing, or you have it different?
Giving up LeBron.
Well, I think James will love that.
Yeah, please go for it. Honestly, it's a hard decision. I get the LeBron age thing, but just look at the numbers on this team. And who's your fantasy points dude? 48.
Yep.
Does Levine get better next year? Will his numbers be the same? Now he remember that Levine was putting up huge numbers, and then they've got a center now who needs touches, so the touches get redistributed. Patrick Williams in year 2, I think he's gonna make a leap. I really like him. Those are lots of things to figure out. Does Levine go somewhere else?
Yeah.
Oof.
I think to me, it's going to depend on at what point during the offseason some of these decisions get made and when do we have to put our keepers in.
Yeah.
Because, if you put in keepers early, some leagues have, early dates before the draft, after the draft, right before training camp. It depends because if all of a sudden Levine is somewhere else, you got to look at who he's playing with.
Right.
Is he going to get the same number of shot opportunities? It's a different ballgame.
Leon, I got to ask then. You obviously kept Levine in this little exercise we're doing here. I mean, you're obviously not concerned with Nikola Vucevic being on this team now with the Bulls and negatively affecting Levine's production. You don't see it that way?
I don't. I think that only enhances Levine's uh, numbers.
Hmm.
But in the case that Levine does leave Chicago, I still might take Gobert over LeBron.
Wow. Oh, my God.
You know,
Brand new world.
honestly, in a fantasy league, center play is gold to me. You know, to a certain extent, because there's not a lot of centers that are going to give you close to 40 a night.
Yeah. And Gobert can do that with his, especially in our league where blocks are worth 3 points. Gobert is averaging 2.7. I mean, it's not Miles Turner good, but it's still pretty damn high.
Right.
I mean, the rebounding alone is pretty damn good. Offensive rebounds you get bonus points. Although I don't know, I'm thinking about getting rid of that for next year.
Question I have regarding this league. I forgot which site it's on, but another league I'm on, they actually have a stat for deflections.
Ooh.
Defensive deflections.
Ooh.
And I've heard that some other fantasy sites are going to start to put that in.
All right,
defensively, it's a hell of a metric.
Yeah, I know that is
track of it, but the fantasy is kind of overlooked that.
Yeah. Because I know that is a stat that NBA.com keeps track of, but you got to dig for it. You got to really dig for it to look for it and find it. But it's a pretty damn interesting stat, and it's usually the guys that you think are causing all the deflections with the large wingspans. Those are the guys causing all the deflections for sure. Like a Paul George is usually a guy up in the leaderboard. No, if CBS, that's the website we use now. CBS, if they offer it, I might consider it and get rid of offensive rebounds. I'm not sure yet, or maybe keep him. I don't know. Something that Aaron and I will have to talk about in the offseason. Let's go quickly to Andrew's team, and of course, Andrew, as you guys know, is my favorite Irish Mets fan, and that's why he gets the Irish colors here. Damian Lillard, I know he's a big fan of Damian Lillard. I mean, 47 points. I guess, Leon, that's not just a sure keeper, but do you see him ever averaging 50 points in our league?
I mean, with his many threes as he's knocked down, and this was a down year for him. So, top 5 shooter coming. Lillard's definitely one. Ayton's the other one for me.
I'm sorry, you said DeAndre Ayton?
Mm-hmm.
That's two solid choices there. James, do you see it the same way, or do you prefer going a different direction here?
I would say Ayton also, yeah. I mean, looking at the roster.
I mean, he has Ben Simmons. You guys don't want to consider
Ben Simmons? Obviously, I'm not picking KP.
I mean, he's always hurt, man. That's
well,
enough for me
as well. A couple of days ago, apparently, so he's out again. As I said, so it's just he just can't stay healthy,
Another interesting one. Well, you can clearly get him later on. Darius Garland.
Yeah, I was just looking at him. Sexland.
Oh yeah.
I think Garland is most hurt by Sexton.
You think so? Wow.
I mean, I'm sure you've heard the rumors, but if you watch them, Sexton just will not pass the damn ball
at all.
He just won't do it.
Are the rumors that everybody has to be nice to Colin Sexton in Cleveland?
Well, supposedly that was the thing during his rookie year, where they told the staff that they were only allowed to praise him. That's been going around. I mean, does that tell you the guy's like mentally weak? I mean, because teams do like psych profiles on their guys.
I gotta ask, isn't that the same kid who in Alabama was able to hold his own on a 4-on-5 game at one point because Alabama didn't have enough players? I don't remember if it was Alabama.
Well, I mean, how horrible was that for him? He had to shoot more.
Oh, Jesus Christ. That's pretty funny. Just taking a quick look at Andrew's team, though, it looks like it's some really nice players. Same issue with Jacob's team, right? It must be a Knicks fan thing. I don't know. But a lot of interesting names, a lot of familiar faces, but it just seems like a lot of these guys were kind of capped at the 30, 35, 37 point mark in this league, a lot of limited upside.
Simmons is never going to improve until he actually takes a jump shot.
Yeah, that's true. So that's one problem. Leon, what do you think is the problem for a lot of these guys on Andrew's team?
Well, one, marketing really took a hit when Vooch came on.
Mm-hmm.
Bagley never stayed healthy. Bertans, I really like Bertans, but those couple of injury those injury spots he had before really hurt him. And Terry Rozier had an awesome season. I don't see him duplicating that again.
I don't think so either. And James, you were going to say something over there?
Sorry. Like a player like Bertans is one of those guys to me who in a daily league is more valuable than in a weekly league.
Yeah,
agreed.
Because on a night when, let's say, your star player's out, you can run Bertans out there, and he can give you 6 or 8 from 3 on a given night. But in a weekly league, his minutes fluctuate depending on how he's shooting, depending on defense, depending, matchups. He's got that one great skill,
Yeah, true that about him.
For a big shooting dude, his rebound, he gets 3 rebounds a game, a quarter of a block.
Yeah, you know who he reminds me of a little bit? I'm obviously not as prolific a scorer, but this kind of screams Brook Lopez to me when he first started out as a rookie, a guy who, when he was drafted, those were all the red flags. He's a 7-footer who can't rebound or block shots. And I thought to myself, well, what good is he? Well, I mean, when you can stretch the floor and you're that big, I guess you can find a home in this league. So if Davis Bertans can come close to duplicating that, maybe the 17 points can go up to 25 points, maybe 27, 28 if he's lucky. Am I shortchanging him there, Leon, or do you expect more from Davis Bertans as he continues to develop?
I think what you get out of Bertans is what you get from Westbrook and Beal as the 2 primary options. Bertans is going to take the leftovers. Bertans has to develop, I guess, an inside game, but you never go inside if you have Westbrook and Beal. So I don't see any more happening.
Yeah, I mean, and when you look at Washington's rotation, to me, Hachimura, who so many teams passed on that Washington got, I loved him coming out. You could just see the skill set. It's going to take some time to transition, but you've seen it now. He's getting run, and he's he's doing well with it now. And remember that next year, the rookie will be back. I know he got hurt, right?
Avdija, yeah.
Avdija also got hurt.
Yep.
So I don't see tons of minutes for Bertans to really expand too much. He's to me, he's the 3rd guy in that front court at most.
All right, we're in the championship teams now. Strikeforce beating Tyler last week. So he earns the number 9 spot overall, which is, I hope, for EJ, who's a longtime rival of mine. I've been playing this guy since 2001, 2002. I hope that's a little bit of a consolation after coming close to winning the championship or sniffing the championship, whatever. I don't know what narrative he used for this week, but he's a dangerous guy. And the fact, listen, Leon, if you're in a league with EJ Fulbright and you come out the winner, that's a hell of an achievement on your part. But with all that being said, I guess it's Russell Westbrook and Brad Beal at this point.
Yeah, I mean, that Washington backcourt, you see what they're doing now, went from from the gutter, now storming to the 9th spot, to the 8th spot for playing tournament. You know my feelings on Westbrook. History about to be made. These are my 2. You can make your case for Ingram. You can make your case for Halliburton. But Westbrook has just been on a tear recently, and I'm glad to see it.
What about you, James? Do you see it the same way that Leon's seeing it, or you see something else here?
To me, Beal's a definite. Westbrook, again, he's playing well right now at the end of the season, honestly. You can't knock what he does when he's clearly healthy.
Yeah.
The problem with him to me is, and I've said this about him before, great player. I love the hustle. I love the attitude, but he's not a great shooter.
Nope.
Never has been. And once his athleticism starts to slip a little bit, to me, he's going to be one of those kind of nosedive players.
Mm-hmm.
You have players who like slowly, their numbers start to decline as they get older. But when he loses some of that athleticism, not being able to hit that outside shot is going to be a big deal.
And he will be 33 by next November. Leon, is that a concern for you at all?
No, because I don't see the same injury history or worry that I would have with LeBron.
And James, same question to you. You're not concerned about his age. Russell Westbrook, 33 in
yeah, like
November.
I said, the age to me is a factor, and because of the way he plays, because he doesn't have an off switch. In all honesty, he goes to the basket with reckless abandon. And, when you're 28, 26, and you get knocked around by a big and land awkwardly, you bounce, fall down 8, get down, get up 9. I don't know how long that's going to keep going for.
Well, we saw
that would be a concern there.
We saw a little bit of weaknesses at the beginning of the year. Like you mentioned, James, he's a terrible outside shooter.
End of last year in the playoffs, he was hurt. And you saw how bad he looked. And not being his 100% athletic self. He played through it because, again,
it's Russell Westbrook.
He's a warrior. Okay, no one can say that, anything against that. But, sometimes that can also hurt your team,
Yeah, and my thing was I was going to mention that at the beginning of the year, outside shooting was off. And so what does Russell Westbrook do, like you mentioned, is that he doesn't have an off switch. He just takes it to the basket. Well, unfortunately for him, his field goal percentage within 3 feet, 5 feet of the basket was also way down as well. So that really hurt him at the beginning of the year. So if you guys are saying that it might have been a health issue and not just a decline in athleticism, maybe there's not too much to be concerned here. Obviously, I mean, he's going to be averaging a triple-double. But I think like James is alluding to, I think that time might be coming. I don't know if next year is the time. Like, I think I'm on the same boat as Leon, where you kind of have to keep him for next year, but it's coming. It's going to come where he can't do the things like we're accustomed to see him do. Maybe it's not the age 33. Maybe it's at the age of 34, 35, 36, but it's coming.
Let's say the third best guy in this team is Brandon Ingram, for instance.
Okay.
If you keep Ingram, do you get to draft? Do you have a chance to draft Westbrook back in the first round?
Ooh.
That's kind of like the little poker game you're playing, no?
No, oh, absolutely. If
you're that high on Westbrook, I'm saying, because to me, Ingram seems to be getting better every year.
True, but the thing about Ingram, and Leon, you can attest to this if you agree or disagree. The thing with Brandon Ingram, as I feel, is that it just depends how much Zion Williamson needs to be fed. Not fed like with his weight problems, right? No, just the ball. I'm talking about the ball, not his New Orleans style food that he is going to be eating there. But to me, Brandon Ingram is only as good as New Orleans is willing to share the ball with him. And not
the thing is, Zion's playing kind of like a point forward,
Mm-hmm.
And he's not a ball hog. I mean, he's more than a willing passer. I mean, even at Duke, he would create shots.
Yeah.
For his other teammates. So it's just a matter of again, a chemistry thing between the two guys, figuring out the offense, and that's some of that's on the coaching. We got to figure out these are your two best guys. You got to put them in that position where they can play off each other.
And I think Leon and Jacob talked about Stan Van Gundy last week, and I rekindled my memory there, Leon. What was your final assessment on Stan Van Gundy's year so far in New Orleans?
I don't think he ever got his system implemented in, with the scheduling and back-to-backs and everyone coming in and out of the lineup.
Interesting.
Lonzo Ball out of the lineup really hurt him. Pelicans play at a fast pace. Lonzo dictates that pace. I think if Lonzo stays, that New Orleans team would be outstanding, and you'll see the best of Ingram. You'll see the best of Zion.
Yeah, I think Lonzo's leaving though. They took the
Was-
ball. They took the ball out of his hands and put it into Zion's hands.
They took the ball out of his hands and put it back with his dad.
They made him more of a spot up shooter, which he did well at this year.
Yeah.
As far as Lonzo goes, he improved.
Let's go over to Tyler Buckley's team. This is the guy who refuses to change his team name because he's stubborn as a rock for a young kid. He's really stubborn. Tyler had high expectations. He got off to a slow start, but he turned it on as the season went on. And the buck stops with him getting the 10th pick overall. That has to be very disappointing because, like I said, he was expecting to either topple Leon or myself in these playoffs, but that did not happen. So, Leon, with all that being said, who do you keep on this team for next year?
I will say this. This was the team I was most afraid of.
Oh, yeah. I'll admit it. Me too.
Durant out at the time we played actually helped, but Clint Capella, Trey Young, my feeling on the Atlanta Hawks over there. If I had to pick two, and this is tough from this roster,
Wow.
Trey Young and
Yeah, I only asked the tough
De'Aaron,
questions here.
De'Aaron Fox is sitting down there too.
yeah, Trey Young and Paul George.
Wow. Okay, I did not expect Paul George at all.
Paul George.
And okay, so what? You're a Nets fan, of course. We established that. What is your concern with Kevin Durant then?
I think he's going to suffer from the same thing that the rest of the Nets are, low management.
Wow. So,
you know what? I would say Brown, but man, this team is tough. Yeah, Trey Young and Paul George. Yeah, Durant's going to suffer from the low management availability.
this team is so loaded. I'm surprised he got off to a slow start the way he got off this season. And I'm surprised that he lost ever again. I mean, you look at his team and they're young, they're dangerous, upside everywhere. Maybe the fact that maybe he might have depended too much on Kevin Durant might have been his downfall. But yeah, it's a shame. James, help me out here. What went wrong with Tyler's team as far as you can tell on your end?
Well, Schroeder was, I think a lot of people expected more from him. Graham didn't get off to a great start. Kind of came on. You see he's got Moses Brown in as a starting center. That didn't happen until late.
Yeah.
Kind of, a good pickup late.
Yeah, very good pickup.
Durant really, Durant was obviously a main cog. That was supposed to be a main cog, and only 30 games played. Even though it's an average league, again, some weeks, like I said, you get lucky and he has that one big game and then he's out the rest of the week. But if you had an okay game that week,
yeah,
played half a game, that's a loss. There's no way to recover from your star player playing half of a game, getting hurt. That just kills you on average for the whole week. Especially if it's one of your main dudes. If it's one of your kind of utility dudes, maybe you get away with it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's one of your main guys. That's going to kill you.
And
really quick, if I'm keeping two guys here, to me it's Young and Fox.
Oh, okay.
Again, Durant, to me, that Achilles. Only Dominique Wilkins has ever thrived after an Achilles. Will Durant be the second? Maybe next year it'll be a different thing. I don't know.
Jacob,
I've had an Achilles injury.
Oh, wow.
So I know it's never the same.
And Jacob's Jacob Moses, I should say, not Jacob Trent. Jacob Moses is finally joining us in here. Jacob, you heard that.
A quick cameo.
Well, you heard that spiel from James Pinos about his concerns about Kevin Durant's Achilles and Dominique Wilkins being the only one who's ever recovered fully from it. Do you agree with that statement, or do you see Kevin Durant maybe one day flourishing and kind of returning to his old form?
I say he is flourishing right now because every time he's on the court, he's dropping 30. So,
Well, he's
but
also dropping 30 games. I mean, he's literally only played
that's
30
true.
games so far.
That's true. Yeah, trust me, I know. But yeah, I think he'll be fine because coming off of Achilles is one of the toughest injuries. And with his game, it's not like he was like Dominic. You know, he was not a power dunker. He relies on his jumper, which he has a really good one. So he has a good chance. I'm not going to say it's 100%. Yeah, it's going to happen, but he has a really good chance of coming back and, playing, I'll say 55 to 60 games. You don't want to go too buck wild because there will be load management that they have to deal with.
Right.
So I can give him 55, 60.
And so there's been a little bit of a controversy between James and Leon. I think Leon's going to go with Trae Young and Paul George if he was owning this team from Tyler Buckley. James just said that he would go with Trae Young and De'Aaron Fox.
Okay.
I don't know if you can see my screen or not, but who
Yeah, I
would
can see
you?
it.
Oh, perfect. Who would you go for the two keepers on Tyler Buckley's team here?
I would have to agree with Leon with Paul George and Trae Young.
Interesting.
Because basically, Young, you know what you're going to get from Young as well. He's going to get you points across the board, his points, assists. De'Aaron Fox will do the same exact thing, but I'm trusting Trae, better three-point shooter. I'll go with that. And Paul George is still Paul George. Let's be real. You can't really throw him to the wayside. He's still an all-star player. I know we had the pandemic P, way off P, backpour P, whatever you want to call him, but it's still Paul George. And if you're watching the games this year, he's playing his tail off. So I would definitely keep Paul George as well.
I want to hear from Leon about this. So Leon, you've been paying attention this entire show. Obviously, this is your show. You're on the show, whatever. And my question to you is, the names that we're getting to the point where we're looking at the heavy duty teams here, the deep teams. We talked about LeBron James not being kept, Russell Westbrook maybe not being kept because of age, whatever. De'Aaron Fox not being kept, and there was one other player. Feel free to rekindle my memory. But of those three players, if you're, I don't know, Jacob Moses, who's picking number 6 overall, who do you pick if you were in his shoes of those three names I just gave you?
Of LeBron,
De'Aaron Fox or Russell Westbrook?
Westbrook. I always take the triple-double threat.
All right, that's fair. Well, Jacob, that's your team. If you're in that same position, those three guys show up, who do you pick?
How many keepers are we going with?
2. We're going with 2. So yeah.
Ooh, okay. I would go with Braun because I have Ja Morant. So De'Aaron Fox, Ja Morant is not really a drop off too much right there. So I can go with I would take a chance on Braun.
Okay. Age doesn't concern you?
Nah.
Okay.
That
was simple.
He had a fluke ankle injury. Let's be real. It wasn't really something that was crazy. It was honestly on a fluke play. So I would go with Braun. Plus, I got some other guys I got in the chamber just in case. But I'm not telling y'all sugar honey iced tea.
Gunsmoke. All right, championship rounds. The 11th the 11th pick overall goes to yours truly, Felipe. I think this is where I picked last year as well. If not, I pick at the back end. That's okay. Put me anywhere. I'm gonna win anyway. I'm gonna win my double-digit games again, like I did this year. Let's Jacob. Since I haven't heard from you all night, if you had this killer team that you obviously don't have,
that's fine. I mean, I was James Harden healthy from James Harden being healthy from going to the finals, but it's all right.
Well, with that being said, on my
that,
roster,
that could be a familiar refrain in the actual playoffs, but that's not
stop, man. Leon can only take so much heartbreak. Come on, he's on his time right now. 2 players on this roster, Jacob. Who, if you were me, who would you keep?
Luka, obviously.
Okay.
I will keep Luka, and I would keep. This is actually tough, but I would just get your backcourt with Mitchell and Doncic.
Yeah.
Because Randall, you can go with Randall or Bam, but I would take your backcourt and keep it. I would go with Mitchell and Luka.
Well, there you go, Leon. Actually, no, not you. Let's go with James because now he has first pick overall here, right? Okay, so Julius Randle, LeBron James, De'Aaron Fox. Okay, Russell Westbrook's off the board. Who are you picking in the first pick now that you? It's becoming clearer as to who's available now for you next year.
What we talking? LeBron. I mean, if LeBron's there, to me, if he's healthy, he's kind of the no-brainer.
But so is Julius Randle. What you're not gonna go homer on me, man? You know you want to.
Love Randle. There's no doubt. But to me, again, and again, some stuff's going to depend on the offseason. Does LeBron get more help next year? Become the West Coast Nets, and everyone starts to sign with LeBron again. I mean, what are we doing here? Aaron Rodgers is joining them this offseason. I heard. Going to be playing the small forward spot next to KD.
That's great.
Oh man.
It's hard. It's hard because LeBron, when he's healthy, he gives you every stat category.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You can say the same thing right now with if you're going by this season. I mean, Randall's been every category. He's filling up all categories.
Oh yeah.
So it's a similar type of thing. Here on this team, again, it's probably Luke and Donovan.
Okay.
Although, like I said, it's hard passing on those productive big guys.
Exactly.
Oh yeah.
Exactly.
Because there's not tons of them anymore like there used to be.
Leon, I need to ask an unbiased opinion here. So you see this 45.18 points per game. Do you think Julius Randle repeats that next year, or goes higher than that? Maybe, hopefully, for my sake.
Damn right he's gonna do. I'm gonna answer it. Damn right.
Okay, see, this is why I don't ask you Knicks fans. This is why I don't ask you Knicks fans. Okay, I want an objective bystander here. Leon, what do you think about that?
It depends on who the Knicks get in the offseason. If they get Lonzo Ball and DeRozan, the numbers stay the same. If they only get DeRozan, the numbers go up.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm of the opinion with the Knicks, and I don't know, how Jacob feels. I don't think we need a truly ball-dominant point guard because you have creators and someone like Randall. You see RJ do it this year.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I love Quickly, because when Quickly is on the court, Randall's operating in space on the post. When that thing that we refer to as Elf is on the court, team's going to an immediate zone. Okay? Because no professional basketball player should have as ugly a jump shot. Michael Kidd-Gilchrist would hit the rim a lot of times from out there.
That's a future episode for you guys. Ugliest jump shots in the NBA.
Oh God,
to me, if you're looking progression-wise, look at Randall's assists, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
Almost 6 this year. RJ's shooting has gotten better. Quickly, year 2. I mean, he's shooting from 4-point range right now at the end of the year. He's starting to make layups, which was a big problem kind of at the beginning of the year for him.
All right, Jacob, I got to ask you now.
Yes, sir.
James just said with this team, you don't need a ball-dominant point guard. With Thibodeau, you honestly –
come on, we're gonna have a ball dominant point guard. We all know that. It just
honestly don't.
I want a pass first guy though. I'd rather have a pass. Like I said, Alonzo would be perfect.
Well,
but he is a pass first point guard.
That was that's where I was. Yeah, and that's where I was heading. Maybe not a ball dominant, but Thibodeau flourishes with those guys. I mean, Emmanuel Quickly is a prototypical Tom Thibodeau point guard. I mean, you look at the point guards outside of Derrick Rose.
Someone to break down the defense.
Yeah. I mean, clearly, that's what he likes those.
To be the point guard.
Listen, he loves those little guards, man. He loves the John Lucas III's of the world, and Nate Robinson III. But here's where I play a little bit of devil's advocate with you, Jacob. It is a point guard league nowadays.
Yep. Absolutely.
You still don't want that flashy point guard, that ball dominant point guard there out in the free agency?
Listen, if you're productive.
We're in a trade.
Damian?
I'm asking. That's my guy right there.
Would you stop trying to give away Kobe White?
It
Damn.
Kobe
Let it go, man. Yours.
Hey, Kobe White, that's another prototypical Tom Thibodeau, point guard who can't jump and is very streaky and can run the court.
I mean, but
That's
Derrick
perfect.
Rose though, he's
Yeah,
looking good though.
He's getting old though. Come on.
Yeah. Selena's like, fuck this. This is ridiculous. I see, but yeah, like I said, at the right price, I would get Lillard. I mean, I'm no fool. I've been high on the guy since he came in the league, so I won't say just hang up the phone. I would listen, but if it's too crazy, you can't. Like me and James, we all been through the Melo deal, and Leon to this day, I could not stand. As soon as I heard, oh, Melo might be coming to the Knicks for what? Starting 5 plus picks. I said, hell no. He could take his ass to Brooklyn. I would drive him to Brooklyn. I did not want Melo that way.
Yeah,
like,
you
come
know,
on,
why
come
pay
on,
for
please.
why give up all your assets for someone you could sign?
Exactly.
If, you know, again, if you want to be a part of a team, you're going to sign with that team.
Mm-hmm.
You mean like Kyrie and KD?
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. No, absolutely. If they wanted to be part of the Knicks, they would be.
Yeah.
But
and
they decided not to.
Mm-hmm. And I told Leon they weren't coming to the Knicks. I knew it. I was like, come on. We had no culture at the time. Things were just in shambles. I was like, they're probably going to the Nets. That's fine. I mean, if they get their chip,
You
that'll
know,
be.
KD wasn't going anywhere to me where he was not getting another guy to go with him.
Oh, of course.
As
Absolutely.
soon as Kyrie decided, I'm going to the Nets instead of the Knicks, it was a done deal.
It was done deal.
Knicks
Knicks
fans, I got to
Yes,
ask you
sir.
guys a question. Okay, so you guys got Obi Toppin in the 6th pick overall, and obviously, Jacob, you missed my little temper tantrum I had earlier when I told these guys how I picked Obi Toppin over Anthony Edwards. So, hey, if I have Anthony Edwards, you're looking at the champ right here, the guy with the Bulls hat. But anyway, that did not happen. How good would Cole Anthony look in a Knicks uniform right now?
Very good. James, I think you wanted him. No. It was either him or Halliburton I wanted. Because I wanted the point guard.
Either
I
way.
like Halliburton a lot.
Halliburton's really good.
Honestly, Cole, to me, he's been a real surprise to me only because his shooting just was so bad in college.
Yeah, but
He was taking
go
bad shots.
Yeah,
It's one thing to be, okay, bad shooting. You know, there's a lot of guys who come out and get better shooting-wise. But his decision-making on his shots, to me, over the year, has gotten so much better. Early on, taking terrible shots.
Yeah, he was.
And everything I heard, attitude-wise, was he's just going to shoot what he wants to shoot. You heard that a lot from coaches, from even some other players, you know. And I didn't want that for that reason. Because, you know, it's one thing to take a bad shot. It's another thing to know it's a bad shot. You're still going to take the shot.
You mean Denzel Valentine?
Oh, God. Oh, yeah, he don't know. Yeah, Felipe. Good Lord, man.
I hated that pick when it was made, but it was a typical John Paxson guard foreman. Let's take the safe upperclassman who has a good skill set with the 2 bad knee injuries. Like you just saw what happened to Derrick Rose. Let's get his replacement, literally his replacement, the guy with the 2 bad knees.
Derrick Rose is still doing better than him.
Yeah, I don't want to talk. Yeah, I don't want to talk about trash.
Who was this we're talking about? I missed that.
Denzel Valentine of the Bull.
Oh, Valentine.
Yeah, his shot. Every time he would take a shot in the game where we kind of smacked the Bulls around, I just smiled. As soon as he got the ball, I'm like, yeah, please shoot the ball. Go ahead.
There's a lot of talk about drafting and guys who got passed up. And, you know, I always think, you know, hindsight is, you know, unless someone like reached, you know, you're going by, even with the NFL draft just happened. There's your draft board. Okay. If you're going completely off of the board, that's different. If you got like 2 or 3 guys in the same range and you're looking for a fit, you know, I mean, you know, you're not going to be right. It's called a lottery for a reason.
I don't care. It was an awful pick by the Bulls. I did not like it. Nobody liked that pick, except for Denzel Valentine. Leon, since you were my adversary for most of this league, there wasn't really much competition for you and I this year. Anything else you want to say about this team before we move on to the last team? Although we're running out of time, I don't know if we're gonna get to your team tonight, though. I'm sorry. You might have to skip your team. No, seriously. Any last words on this squad that you see in front of you here?
be on the lookout for Isaiah Stewart next year.
Mm-hmm.
Really came in with some good minutes late in the season. I know Mason Plumlee really had a good year, but Isaiah Stewart, we were high on him on draft night, but
That's right.
Yes, sir.
he's putting up the numbers.
Leon,
Yep.
it hurts when Leon has to give a Duke player like any kind of credit. You can see it in his face.
You can hear it in my voice.
Yeah.
Well, is he giving? He's saying nice things about Mason Plumlee. Is that what you're saying there?
Yeah, Leon and me, just the UNC Duke thing. Yeah, I think we don't like just every team he has, except for football. It's just the complete the Nationals, the Nets.
Oh, speaking of Nashville, sorry, James.
Oh,
Oh, what's the score? Nationals and
over.
Yankees.
It's over.
did Patrick Corbin get the win?
No.
God darn it!
Really quick, and just wanted to compliment the Detroit Pistons for having a hell of a draft this last season. I think we were pretty high on them. We didn't realize they were going to be this productive so soon, or at least show flashes of production. So look out for the Pistons in the near future. It looks like they really have a good thing going, and it's about damn time. Yeah. More about that in the offseason. And all right, okay. Here's your stupid. Let's go, stupid champ with the Nets colors, the Brooklyn Nets colors here.
Just gotta say it 2 times. The champ.
No, seriously, I hope you like my Nets, my Brooklyn Nets color scheme that I did for you here.
It's very, very looks regal.
Regal? Oh, all right. Steven Regal. Gotcha.
All right, if you start singing "He's a Man," I'm smacking you on sight when I see you.
Or William Regal. Yeah.
Okay, James, you get the first pick overall. Let's have you start. You look at the champs team, right? So from first pick to 12th pick overall, who does Leon get to pick for his keepers next year?
Well, Jokic is obviously. I mean, if you're not keeping Jokic, I'll gladly take him on my team. Good looking out.
Tampering.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say there's no tampering rules here. I mean, there's collusion rules, anti-collusion rules, but no anti-tampering rules. So.
If you decide you need to keep, some net bench player and let Jokic go instead, I'll decide about the whole thing,
Yeah, that'd be crazy. Like James has been like.
Vuvicek could make a move next year on the Bulls and be better than Jokic, so you might want to take Vuvicek instead.
I think you got to take advantage of that, Leon. So it's pretty funny. Like it's like James, would you get that guy in the first pick overall? Yeah, I'll take LeBron. I'll take Russell Westbrook in the first pick. I'll take everybody. And then you get to Jokic. Yeah, I'll take him too. He's gonna take everybody this year. Who's the second guy?
Like I said, you just don't know who people are gonna let go. I mean, I've seen some weird stuff in keeper leagues.
I don't think Leon's letting go of Nikola Jokic. It's the complete opposite of. It would be the complete opposite of Frozen here. He's not letting it go. Cole doesn't bother him anyway. Okay, so James, the second keeper there for Leon's team.
I would say it's probably Irvin.
Oh, Jacob, you still there? I want to get.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay. Yeah. Do you think Leon keeps Kyrie Irving for next season?
He probably will. Damn Nets homer. That's fine though. Go ahead. Go ahead and keep the Kyrie. Go ahead.
The Kyrie.
I mean, you got to be careful though, because I heard in the offseason he's taking that trip to the end of the earth.
Oh no!
They let him go.
Oh,
so he could fall off and shit. You don't know what happens.
Oh no! Not Kyrie Irving. No.
Nah, Leon. He joined the Nation of Islam, so he might be on another path there.
Is he with the Nation of Islam, or is he just kind of what do you call it? Just trying to live their lifestyle.
No. He converted to Muslim. He converted to Islam. Yeah, he did.
I thought he was just doing it just to do it. I'm sorry.
No, he might have another brother, Malcolm.
His new name is going to be Osama. I take games off, man.
Good Lord. Oh man, Alu Akbar. Hashtag ISO gang.
Oh Jesus! We should have just done that for the entire episode. Just make up new names for Kyrie Irving. You heard of Cassius Clay? He went to be known as Muhammad Ali. Kyrie Irving could be, I don't know.
All I'm thinking right now is the barbershop in Coming to America.
Oh gosh.
His mama call him Kyrie. I'm gonna call him Kyrie. All right, Leon, you're the man of the hour or of the next 2 minutes here, as we don't want to put too much shine on this whack ass team. I should have beat it. No, do you agree with your peers here that you were gonna go with Kyrie Irving and Nikola Jokic, or you got something else on your sleeve there that you want to show us here?
Either that or Melo.
You know, Joker never show, card never show my hand, but I think it's fairly obvious.
Okay.
I will say for this team, during the year, Boots was a major part of it. McCollum was nice throughout the year, but like everyone else in the league, with the injuries, and I drafted Blake Griffin thinking he was a main guy out in Detroit. Then he got into that buyout discussion, and he sat for like 3 weeks.
Yep.
Drummond sat for 3 weeks, and it
Is
looked
Drummond
like
in the game yet?
Drummond. He's in LA.
Yeah.
But has he reported yet? Because
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't seen it, but it was
I mean,
good
Leon,
enough to win.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Leon
he
had him in
definitely
his
looks
starting
like a
lineup
shape,
against me, and that helped him out big time.
See?
As Drummond, what Drummond does is get a bunch of rebounds and block shots. So that sucked for me, at least.
I also will say one of the keys to winning this championship, actually two of them, were on that upstart Hornets team. Miles Bridges, P.J. Washington. Be on the
He
lookout
got
for
that
those
from me.
Hornets. Oh yeah.
Yep.
P.J. Washington now the center eligibility with that small ball lineup. Those guys are going to be outstanding. I know Miles Bridges is out 10 to 14 days now, but during that past 3 weeks, he elevated his game to another level that allowed me to wear the crown.
This mofo had that damn speech ready, actually.
I would hope so, man. He has a podcast to have that platform to be bragging and have those speeches done. You know.
Absolutely.
Sadiq Bey, I just wanted to point out Sadiq Bey is the other Pistons player who was drafted by them very masterfully, if I say so myself, along with Isaiah Stewart. I think James was the one who mentioned Rui Hachimura. He's with Team Leon, as you can see right there. But yeah, I think that's a safe choice right there, Nikola Jokic and Kyrie Irving. And if you sort it by everybody on the team, this is what it kind of looks like. All of these guys should be kept, if not be selected very early on in the draft next year. Let me make that a little bit bigger so you guys can see. I think we mentioned some of these guys who might be available. There's LeBron James, who we're kind of 50-50 split that he might be kept by whoever's replacing Jacob Trent's team over there. Excuse me. Jimmy Butler's another guy. We're kind of not sure if he's going to be kept by Aaron, but I think we're a little bit more sure about that one than we are about LeBron being kept. Who else? Domantas Sabonis. I mean, Mike Harvey's a big Pacers fan, so I think he's staying. Julius Randle might be available, so there's another guy that James Pinos might go after. He says he's going after LeBron. He says he's going after Nikola Jokic. I don't know. I think the Knicks fan in him will say otherwise. De'Aaron Fox, Jesus Christ, De'Aaron Fox might be available. So for those teams who did not make it far in the playoffs or struggle, you will get your chance to kind of redeem yourself. There's a lot of talent, top-heavy talent for next year to help you out right away. There's DeMar DeRozan. I think he might be available next year. So, yeah.
Hall of Famer, DeMar DeRozan.
Is he now? Okay.
Yeah, he's very possible.
Yeah. Pascal Siakam. At one point, he used to be a guy who could average more than 40 points a game. Jacob, what the hell happened to Pascal Siakam this year?
I'm telling you, man, he reverted to just something I didn't want to see. I'm like, oh, yeah, he's going to step it up now. His team, he doesn't have Kawhi there, so he's going to – nope. He just – I don't know what the hell happened, man. I just know his ass. He might be on a free agency list.
So he went from spicy P to mild P? Is that
he
what
got
happened?
off to a terrible start.
Yeah, it just was all year, man. It was just bad. It's not even mild pee. It's just watered down, man.
Watered down pee. Watered down pee. That sounds like me after drinking light beer every on a given night. Well, Fred VanVleet was able to flourish and get his 40 points. Why not Pascal? Come on. I'm just saying.
It's
something
something.
that team got really perimeter oriented with Van Fleet, Lowry,
Mm-hmm.
Ogubani. Paul was there before he got traded. Then Trent came in and just basically started taking all the shots.
It's that Florida water. It's in Tampa. Once they go back to Toronto, they'll be all right.
Oh, they'll revert back to what? Okay, I got you. Pascal Siakam will be relevant again. And not that he isn't now, but I swear that he was averaging low to mid 40s last year in our league, and he dipped below 40 this year. So there's something off from there. Yeah. Malcolm Brogdon, he's not a keeper, but I mean that's a guy you probably drafted in the second round. If you're lucky, maybe in the third round. So, like I said, there's going to be players. It's only 2 guys who are kept. If everybody else does their homework, this should be another competitive league next year, and it just won't be the Leon and Felipe show next year. I don't know. I'm just saying. And I'll go ahead and stop sharing my screen as it's nothing else to share there.
I'm working on the championship in the other league right now. So.
Actually, he is. It's a good thing I wanted to bring up. He brought it up. So, yes, James is in the championship league in my Yahoo Daily League. Congratulations, James. You did an excellent job there. Against my other friend, I'm in a third place game. Mitchell and Fox kind of got injured, and the health safety protocols kind of took me out there. But it was a competitive league all year. But the injuries and low minutes.
Glance over. Obi just dunked on like 3 days, bro. That was for you, Felipe.
Thank you.
But yeah, I think it ends this Sunday, so I don't even know what the score is for your matchup, but
right before game time today, I was up 6-3.
Oh shit! Well, he's in the driver's seat.
Hopefully.
What do you got? You have Giannis on that team?
Yeah.
No, there you go. My man cooking at the right time.
Not in that league. No, I have Curry in both leagues.
No, that explains it. But yeah, congratulations to James, and just goes to show that maybe weekly is better than daily.
Oh shit! Wait! Load it up, guns.
Look, in the difference in the other league, I lost both my starting centers. But I was able to churn the bottom of the roster and find rebounds and blocks, and I couldn't do that in the other league. That's the main difference you get between those types of leagues, where you're able to just you can make adjustments, churn, those 3-4 roster, kind of run like an NFL team. You're always looking to improve the bottom of that roster depending on the week of the matchup. You're getting killed in blocks. You pick up a couple of big dudes that get block shots, even though they're kind of inside of a house.
But as I was saying, though, this has to be one of I think I told you this, Leon. My squad, this has to be one of my favorite teams of all time. In the 20 years I've been doing fantasy basketball, it just seemed like, the injuries, that was a running theme this year. The injuries were just god-awful. We mentioned it early on in this episode, where this has to be one of the worst years of injuries in the NBA that I can never remember. But it just seemed like everybody I touched just was productive for me, at least for a stretch of 1-2 games. And it's just a really happy team. I honestly thought I had it. It was it was upside guys. I was able to pick up some guys at the end to kind of help me with some of those injuries, kind of like how you did it with your guys as well. At the end, I just kind of ran out of gas. Is that those injuries caught up to me, and it seems like your team was getting healthy at the right time, Leon. So I think that ended up not that I'm saying that it's the excuse, but there is a luck factor involved as well, and that was.
I mean, I did have Kyrie.
Well, that's what I mean. Listen, if you had we saw the other guys, the other owners with the Nets players, and they're not in the same position that you're in right now. they're actually drafting.
Kyrie's the one that played the most games, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Even though he took a couple of vacations there.
Well, I think that's what happened. He took them early just so he can help out Leon at the end of the year.
The whole Ramadan thing I find interesting because I don't know how old some of you dudes are, but Hakeem used to do the same thing.
Yeah.
And he used to drop like 20 pounds that month, and you can tell, he'd be winded at the end of the game, I mean, there's lots of guys that have done it. I mean, you just don't know about it because they're not as high profile. But
Right.
I remember with Hakeem and, for a while, Muhammad Abdul Rauf before he got blackballed from the league.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
original Steph or something like that.
Yep. There you go. Yeah, we needed Elijah Wan to get winded in fucking 94.
Now, what we needed was Rolando Blackman, who was sitting on the goddamn bench.
Oh, yeah, that and John Starks and his 2 for 17. I still blame OJ, too.
It was OJ's fault.
OJ gets the blame.
All right. Okay. Go
Damn, OJ. Bastard.
But
I think you left Felipe speechless with the OJ.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
Don't bring it up. Don't even.
No.
Okay, fine. I won't do it.
94 was a great year. I didn't have to see his face.
Wait, but you have your own show?
Yeah, tomorrow. It's Mother's Day Sunday, so we're gonna go on Saturday afternoon, okay. Sean and I, because what the hell are we talking about? Post high prospects. We already had a big argument via chat, just preparing. So it should be gun smoke tomorrow afternoon at the Felipe and Sean Corral over at Total Bases podcast at Baseball Life.
I don't know. I think you guys are shooting Nerf guns, but all right.
Oh, well, shoot. Right now, Gunsmoke. You want to talk about Gunsmoke? I think we told you, right?
Francisco Lindor actually has a Nerf gun as a bat right now.
Listen, we're not going to – listen, he had a home run tonight, so I'm not –
Matt's going to Met, bro.
Listen, he has a home run tonight? That's okay. Listen, I don't want to hear that because when Stain was slumping, y'all guys were just up and on. Y'all was about to kick him straight out of New York.
Really quick, you guys. So I looked up Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf over at the Basketball Reference website because you guys mentioned that he's known as Steph Curry prototype or whatever, BC, Steph Curry BC before Curry. So they have similarity scores, right? Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf played for 9 seasons. The guy that he has the highest similarity score to is Rafer Skip to my Lou Alston, which I think I love that comparison a little bit more than the Steph Curry one.
Well, see, to me, the difference in the style of play hurt him back then also because you could beat up on little guards back then. And by the end of the game, sometimes he was beat up. And so he couldn't close. Now that you can't lean on guys the way that it used to be, and you see, it's a guard league now. Why? Because you can't beat up the guards like you used to. Guards used to get beat up.
If I may counterpoint that, I'm a Bulls fan, and that dude used to torch our ass especially in Denver. He was one of the 10 losses in 95, 96.
Denver always has an advantage to me home court wise. If Denver has a good team, they have an advantage because you come in, if you fly in that same day, you're absolutely screwed.
Yeah, well, they had no answer. The Bulls didn't have a single answer. They had all the answers against the Knicks, that's for sure, against the Knicks point guards, but not against Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf. No.
I mean, when you got John Paxson trying to guard Muhammad Abdul-Rauf, that's never going to work.
Well, shit. Imagine Ron Harper trying to guard Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf on his shaky knees over there. Okay, here it is. Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf. So I guess it's not as good as I thought it was, but 11.7 points against the Bulls for his career. 3.4 assists and 1.5 rebound. 23.4 minutes per game against the Chicago Bulls. But there was that one game in 95-96 when they snapped their 30-game win streak, and I'll never forget that. It still haunts my dreams. Stop laughing.
Wait, who was laughing?
I thought I heard Jacob laughing at me.
And the Mets win it.
Jacob's giggling in the dark over there. I don't know what's going on.
Darkness.
No.
Darkness has arrived.
Darkness, everybody. All right, the Mets won. Now I'm going to message Corey because he was talking all that shit. He about to get the gun smoke right the hell now.
Jacob shows up and he's just shooting up everybody already. Jesus.
I had to make up for lost time, man.
Clearly, you are making up for lost time.
What the hell you think this is?
It's your show. I'm just on that show. That's all it is.
Nah, you did a great job. Y'all did a great job. Thank you for doing it. I appreciate it.
Thanks for inviting me. I love how you guys, anytime I have these wacky ideas and I have these basketball thoughts I want to share, you guys are always willing to accommodate me. So I really do thank you guys. You guys are, again, I cannot sing your praises enough. You guys are doing a wonderful job as the admins, one of the primary admins at this point at the Basketball Life. I mean, I'm an admin, but I'm not an admin. I'm just there as support. No, you guys have been. I'm sorry, what?
Nah, go ahead. I was about to say the master of spreadsheets. We always need that. Bring that dynamic.
I am the super spreadsheeter here. But no, you guys have been doing an awesome job as admins. You guys just have whatever vision you guys had for it. I'm pretty sure this is it right here, and I could not be any happier with it. James, thank you for being the only one to show up tonight, having the balls to speak for yourself and defend yourself here. Thank you for joining us and providing some insight on not just your basketball team, but everybody else's basketball team as well.
A lot of fun. You guys are great. You know, the league was a lot of fun. You know, even though, like I said, I got kind of screwed, you know, injury wise and stuff this year. But you know, it happens.
Yeah.
You know, it happens. I've gone from last to first in several leagues before. Just, you know, sometimes it's health. You know.
Hey man, you got a first pick overall for your troubles, so don't blow it.
Yeah. Don't worry, Leon, remember, hook your friend up.
Yeah, I'll send you pictures down Flatbush when we hold the trophy.
You know, Leon, if they lose, you're going to have to hide, right? Me and Jake are coming for you, right?
Oh my God. I'm waiting.
Yeah, I'm waiting too.
What if?
Leon's going to be a witness protection. Right?
Oh, man. That's
what if Leon winning the fantasy?
The Nation of Islam and change his name too, bro. Leon in the Heidi a hole.
Well, I was going to ask you guys, what if Leon winning this fantasy basketball championship, but his punishment is that he gets to see the Brooklyn Nets not win one this year?
I would freaking die. The first show.
Speaking from personal experience, in years that I have won in different sports, not in basketball, because obviously the Knicks haven't won shit in a while. But in like football and baseball, when I've done really well that year, yeah, that unfortunately has seemed to correlate.
Who's your football team? I forget. James.
I'm a Cowboy fan, always.
Oh, well, that explains.
Always been a Cowboy fan.
I did not know that. I thought, no. I was expecting better from you, honestly.
Oh, shit.
Good draft, though. Good draft.
Yeah, I loved it. You know, they drafted for fit, which, you know, again, you know, some people didn't like it, but we needed linebackers because LVE, unfortunately, I love him. When he's healthy, just like when Sean Lee, you know, up until the end there when he kept getting hurt, he's a tremendous gamer and gets to the ball, but you know that he just keeps getting that neck injury, keeps coming back now. So
listen, man,
you need options.
When the bar has been set so low, anything looks good by comparison. You know, I mean, I'm just saying.
What are you, a Bears fan? What are we talking about here?
Oh.
Well, we're not talking about me. We're talking about you, man. We're talking about the Cowboys.
I'm just checking, though.
Don't deflect.
When you're talking about the bar being set low, I mean, you know.
Don't deflect. Don't worry about my team. Worry about your team. How about them apples?
You know, ironically, the most the teams that are worth the most money, the top three teams are all teams that I root for.
What, the Yankees, the
Knicks, and Cowboys.
Yeah, it's the two largest market, and of course, America's team.
Well, that's the thing, you know, people always ask, and I'm like, well, you know, and again, youngins, but I don't know how much y'all remember, but when I was a kid, games locally were always blacked out. You know, the NFL was much stricter on the blackouts, and that's why there's so many Cowboy fans, Steeler fans, 49er fans in different cities, because they were on constantly.
Yeah, that's true.
During those days, and that's why that's why those fan bases are the way that they are, because
and they were winning too.
The Giants were blacked out so much back then that you didn't get to see them every week. You know, now it's mandated that, you know, the local team gets on the TV basically, but otherwise.
Yeah.
You know, it was
How am I
a
supposed
different
to watch
time
the
for some of the
Jets?
leagues.
So what you said the blackout is that Leon and Jacob are not allowed to watch football games? Is that what you're saying, James?
Oh,
Ain't this a bitch?
clearly
Ain't this a
that's
bitch? See, they just brought the blackouts
Listen,
all over.
this is the most diverse group here, right? We got 2 African Americans and we got 2 Hispanics.
Look at that. See?
We let none of them white people on the show tonight. You know, I'm
man.
sure the FCC is calling.
Hey, be careful. Be careful. Some of us have been suspended because we bash a certain complexion too much, a certain lighter complexion too much. So just be careful there, James.
Hey,
tread lightly.
I try to avoid those conversations in the group. There are some members of the group who only comment in the groups and when some sort of political or racial thing is brought up, and you guys are really, really nice in the fact that you don't ban certain people, because there's a couple of people that when you look at their posts, they're not on any of the discussion posts about actual baseball, basketball, football stuff. But the minute you bring up something like that, they've got an opinion.
Yeah.
You know, it always seems to be a certain shade.
Especially in the off season, in the baseball group, especially in the off season when everybody's bored, everybody has jerked off too many times already, and they got nothing else to do with themselves, so they see a quasi political post in the baseball group and like, yeah, well, you know, the Democrats they're ruining the country, they're ruining America. Like, what? What does this have to do with the luxury tax?
Listen, I saw the perfect meme today. And I don't know, I'm not friends with all of you, but I had posted it. And it's the future the left wants, and it shows the Federation from Star Trek. The future Republicans want, and it's the Handmaid's Tale.
Oh my God!
Oh
I was literally crying for like 5 minutes.
Oh my God! Utopia versus dystopia, right? So, all right. Well, it's way past the 2-hour mark. We've been talking about Leon's team this whole time. We've talked about him too much. Leon, why don't you send us home already?
Well, we catch your wonderful show tomorrow afternoon. Total Basis Podcast with Felipe and Melecio, Sean Flannery. Catch your fantasy baseball needs. We just spoke about the NFL draft. Previous episode on the Audible. Randy Hammond and Matt Bushnell. They do an awesome job. The awards, I'm still waiting to see the hardware.
The Grammy nominated.
Donk City, Monday nights, 7 p.m. Baseball Life, Henry Maldonado Jr. Vince Mercandetti, Yankees took a national for tonight. Hope it continues all weekend. It'll be good to listen to that.
I can already see it. I can already hear it. How can you lose to a team that lost to the Braves? I don't get it. Yankees, Aaron Boone, fuck him. Fire Boone already. All right.
I'm having fun torturing Vince with all his burner accounts on Twitter. I just keep posting all the people ranting on Twitter. I said, look, another Vince burner account.
What the hell? We got another no-hitter.
Yeah, Wade Miley got a no-hitter. That's the 4th one this season.
What in the hell is going on?
Wait, 7 or 9 innings?
I don't know. I'm assuming it's 9 innings. I'm assuming it's 9 innings. And it's against Cleveland, who just got whooped the Royals' ass this past week. So I don't know what that says about the Royals or the Reds or Wade Miley. I don't know. Come on, Wade Miley getting a no-hitter. This is so messed up.
Unbelievable. But you can catch our previous episodes by subscribing to the Life Group Podcast Network on the YouTube channel, or you can catch us on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Anchor, Apple, however you receive your podcast. And I think that's about sends us home.
Work Shoot podcast as well.
The Work Shoot.
Oh,
the wrestling podcast.
The Work Shoot Wrestling Podcast. Thursday nights. Corey Richmond, Jason Brooks. I think they just did Blood and Guts.
Blood and what?
Yeah.
Blood and trash? Okay.
Blood and intestines.
We love you guys, though. That shit was trash.
And I just listened to them too. They were good, but
no, they are so full of information. Like they're talking about wrestling I didn't even know existed.
Absolutely, I love it, man.
Yeah, it's great.
But yeah, that is everybody, right?
Yes.
Yes, I got it. I
Your
got
show.
it.
Your show.
Yeah, you can
Oh
catch
yeah,
up.
well, yeah. Well, what you said?
Yeah, you can catch the brothers on Friday.
Yeah, there's no blackout here. No, this is not the NFL here.
Nah, we don't play that.
Yeah. I think the blackout in the stands, the blackouts in the head coaching positions. That's the NFL for you.
But yeah, we'll be right back at you next Friday night. I think WNBA opening night next Friday. So
Hell yeah. Are you
Yes,
guys gonna
sir.
do something big for that next week or no?
I'll have my Liberty jersey on. That's about it.
Okay.
We might post more about the WNBA leading up to it. First season, doing stuff like that. Yeah, we'll do something for the ladies though.
Yeah. All right. Let me know if you guys need my help or anything.
yeah,
Absolutely.
25th season is going to be real good. Playing tournament coming in soon, so going to work on getting guests. But we'll be back here next Friday. Catch all our other podcasts during the week. And until then, everybody, ball out.
Sir.
That Rose.